over while you're gone, or will the group? Okay.
Hi, my name is Aileen Milton, and I'm president of the Village's Tea Party, and I have the honor to have Publius Huldah with us today, and she is going to be speaking to the Village's Tea Party tonight and about Article 5, the Convention of States, and why that is being pushed on us, and we have to understand that our Constitution is good the way it is. The biggest thing is it's not being enforced. And I'd like to welcome PH. How you doing today?
I'm well, thank you.
Well, tell me, you've driven all the way down from Tennessee to come to the Village's Tea Party. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm a retired litigation attorney. Before I went to law school, I got my undergraduate degree in philosophy, where I specialized in political philosophy and epistemology, that's theories of knowledge. After I got my law degree, I went to Europe. I spent about 4 years in and out of Eastern Europe and the former Soviet Union during the Cold War. So I have seen a full-fledged police state in operation. I have seen communism in operation. I fear that it is headed here, and the American people better stop it.
How are we going to do that?
We need to restore and recover our glorious Constitution. Our Constitution really was a 5,000-year miracle. With our Constitution, we created the federal government, and we delegated to the federal government only a few powers. These, depending upon how you count, we delegated 18 to 21 powers to the federal government. All these powers authorized the federal government to do for the country at large fall into 4 categories. 1, military defense, international commerce and relations. 2, immigration and naturalization. 3, domestically, to create a uniform commercial system. Weights and measures, patents and copyrights, bankruptcy law, a money system based on gold and silver, mail delivery and some road building, and 4, with some of the amendments, secure certain civil rights. That's it. That is basically all the federal government has lawful authority to do over the country at large.
Let me ask you, when did we start getting off the track from our Constitution?
It was 100 years ago when the political progressives took political power. We had Theodore Roosevelt in the Republican Party, Woodrow Wilson in the Democrat Party, Tweedledum, Tweedledee. They were both political progressives, and their basic philosophy was that government should take care of all the problems, take care of every problem. They were going to fix all the problems.
Which obviously they've created more problems than they've fixed.
Yes, they have.
Well, PH, where do you think we're heading right now in this country, and are we really going to have an opportunity to try to stop some of the things that are going on, and what do the American people need to do?
We do have an opportunity to stop them. When the political progressives took over 100 years ago, that is when we abandoned the enumerated powers limitations on the federal government. The new political philosophy became that the federal government would do whatever the people in the federal government thought they should do. And that is what has been going on for the last 100 years. The federal government has usurped thousands of powers we never delegated to it. All of these powers are unconstitutional, and it has turned our federal government into a lawless, illegitimate federal government. The problem is that the American people stopped reading our two founding documents, our Declaration of Independence and our Constitution. The American people don't know that the federal government has only a very few undefined powers over the country at large. Those I listed a little earlier. That's all they can do. The people have got to start learning our founding documents. They have to read the Constitution, and they have got to start enforcing the Constitution with their votes.
Do you think the American people have gotten lazy and have allowed they just want somebody to be in charge so that they can do their daily lives and they don't want to be bothered? Is that how we're losing our power here?
I think that is the basic problem. The American people just didn't want to be bothered to be what Alexander Hamilton said they were to be, the natural guardians of the Constitution. Alexander Hamilton expected the people to know the Constitution and to enforce it by vetting our candidates for office and by removing them from office by our votes when they violated the Constitution. But the American people, I don't want to be bothered. I don't have to read the Constitution. That's what I hire them to do. They'll handle it.
This is sort of a little bit off the track, but do you think that one of the first places that we can do a better job as Americans is look at our vetting system?
Yes. What the American people should be doing is they should be grilling their candidates. They should be conducting public forums where they test candidates on their knowledge of the Constitution. It should be like oral exams when you get a PhD, when you're defending a PhD thesis. Any candidate for office should be grilled. He should be required to list the enumerated powers delegated to Congress. He should be able to describe the constitutional powers of the president. He should know the document. The Constitution is not difficult. Any properly educated 8th grader should understand the enumerated powers delegated to Congress and to the President.
So where do we start this process?
Well, the progressives took over the public education system starting in around the 1840s. It isn't going to happen in the public schools because they are now completely under the control of the progressives. Citizens are going to have to conduct study groups in their homes. We're going to have public meetings, forums where people teach and discuss the Constitution. The citizens are going to have to do this themselves.
And if they don't?
If they don't, we are headed down the road in this country to what I saw in Eastern Europe during the Cold War, a totalitarian dictatorship. It is coming to this country.
Do you think Obama has been laying the ground roots, or do you think it really goes back to the 1800s when the progressives first
I think it goes back to the progressives. It's been going on for over 100 years.
Is there any way that we can... Have you ever heard of the movie Agenda, Grinding America Down?
Yes, I have. It's an excellent video.
Yeah, and we've shown that several times. I know. I think Curtis Boris is going to come out with an updated version. And how do we, as individual small groups, help to educate our people better or to get this information out? How do we do that?
We have to encourage everybody to read the Constitution. As I said, it is not difficult. I'll be handing out tonight a chart where I have set forth on one page everything about our Constitution and how the federal government has these few powers and how all the other powers are reserved by the states or the people. It is really not difficult.
Let me ask you this. With that form, do you think that the states have also given up their power? And if you believe that, then how we, the people, get our states to take their power back?
The states have, from the beginning, collaborated with the federal usurpations of power. The states did it in order to get federal money. For example, take education. God told parents to educate their children, but the parents let the states take over education. And so the state governments have bought into federal education schemes such as Race to the Top and now Common Core. And the states implemented these federal programs in their schools because the states got federal funds for doing so. The states have been selling the retained rights of the states and the people. They have been selling them to the federal government for grant money. Look at law enforcement. The federal government has been nationalizing law enforcement. This has speeded up a lot under Obama. Remember when Obama ran for office the first time, he said he wanted a national civilian security force, which is just as powerful, just as well funded as the regular military. That is what Obama is getting. He is using the DHS, Department of Homeland Security, as the vehicle to nationalize state and county law enforcement. This is how Obama can get a national police force, just like the East German Stasi, which I saw in operation in East Germany during the 1970s. In Tennessee, my home state, the Tennessee legislature passed an act about 10 years ago putting our county sheriffs under the control of DHS. Now, this is just for emergencies, right. In Tennessee, DHS is involved in issuing driver's licenses. Have you heard about the fusion centers in every state? That is where DHS is combining with law enforcement in the states, but it's just to prosecute acts of terror, so don't worry about it. The states have all gone along with this. Why? For the money, for the free combat equipment. The states have been selling us out. Why? Because we elect to our state legislatures people who go along with this. It's the people we elect to our state legislatures who have sold our rights and powers to the federal government. So we have to elect honest people to our state governments, people who will resist federal tyranny instead of going along with it so they can get federal funds.
You're putting a major burden on the people. Do you think they're even close to being up to it? I mean, think about it. They have to start almost from square one again.
They do.
And rebuild the local, to the sheriffs, to the city commissioners, to the educators, to the school boards, etc., all the way up to the governor. And it's difficult to find good people, or it's difficult for them, once they get in office, not to get along, to go along. It's a major task you're asking.
Yes, it is.
How do you think we can do it? How do we start? Have we got a basic plan put together yet? Because it's going to take a plan. I mean, the progressives didn't do this overnight.
No.
How are the conservatives and the concerned Americans going to do it? I don't think you can do it by going to rallies.
No.
And going up to D.C. and meeting on the Capitol steps. We got to work a little bit closer to home.
We do. And God distributes the gifts as He sees fit. My gift is understanding and explaining our founding documents, but I am not an organizer. I don't know how to organize anything. So I have to leave that up to people who are gifted in organization.
Okay,
You understand?
I understand.
Yeah.
I try to tell a lot of people I'm a generalist and I'm a facilitator. And I facilitate by finding people like you to come to our group and then speak to the Tea Party, educate us, and then hopefully the people within our group then will finally wake up and then they take it to the next level.
Exactly.
And therefore, I don't have the ability to concentrate on one issue,
Right.
the Constitution. I have the ability to show people that, and then hopefully the next group will pick up that particular gauntlet and move forward with it. So it takes all kinds, like
Yes.
you said, because your education is so superior to my knowledge but I know how to find you. You know, to bring it forward,
Yeah.
and then hopefully somebody else will pick this up and move it to the next step. But it's going to take us a long time, isn't it?
Yeah. And we need to make a series of short videos. I saw a 3-minute video done by 2 little boys, and they were basically explaining why balanced budget amendments are the worst idea since sin. Let me explain. If you go through, we all know that we've got a federal debt of over 17 trillion. 18 trillion, plus there are all of these hundreds of trillions in unfunded liabilities. How did we get this? It was from unconstitutional spending. If you go through the Constitution and underline all of the powers delegated to Congress and to the President, you will have a complete list of the objects on which Congress is authorized to spend money. That is how our framers control spending. The reason we have this $18 trillion debt is because Congress spends money on objects where they have no constitutional authority to act, such as the Departments of Agriculture, Education, EPA, HUD, HHS. All of these are unconstitutional agencies, and all the spending is unconstitutional. What the balanced budget amendments do is to substitute a budget for the enumerated powers, and to say that Congress can spend money on whatever they or the President decide to put in the budget, as long as they don't spend more than they take from us in revenues or don't exceed a certain percentage of the gross domestic product. But they can waive all of these limits in cases of emergency. So in other words, there are no limitations because Congress can vote to lift the limitations on spending. So all versions of a balanced budget amendment are a complete hoax. All they do is legalize unconstitutional spending, and they fundamentally change the nature of our Constitution from one of limited and enumerated powers only to one of general and unlimited powers. It's a terrible trick, and the Americans have no idea of what a horrible trick the balanced budget amendment is.
I read the book by G. Edward Griffin, about the creature from Jekyll Island.
Yes.
And he convinced me that a balanced budget act is not the way to go for a lot of reasons, And I'm going to simplify it a little bit in that it's easy to say we got to have a balanced budget. How do you get there? You raise the taxes to get there. And does it say that you're going to spend less? No, it doesn't. It just says it's going to balance. How do you balance? You have to raise more revenue. How do you raise more money? You tax more people. And they're taxing us to death. And there's so much that I think the American people don't understand. I think it's 83% is on automatic, with automatic programs, with Medicare, with Social Security, in some of our other entitlement programs, it is on automatic. There is only about 17% of the budget that it is even, they can consider to balance. the 83% is automatic. It's on automatic pilot because those laws have been passed. And until they change those laws, there is no balance, because they are law in themselves because they've been passed, and therefore those programs are on automatic pilot with automatic increases. And how do you obey the law of what those laws say? You need more money. Boom, you got to have a balanced budget. Boom, you raise the American people's taxes, or in some cases, like Harry Reid was trying to do to pay our debt, was trying to sell our land to foreign entities, or giving up control of our national parks, you know, to UN and things like that. So the Balanced Budget Act, in my opinion, is very dangerous. And we have to control our spending. What don't we understand about that?
Yeah.
And that means getting rid of excess programs that we don't need. I don't need to study why worms do other worms, or why gophers go in holes, or why the tsetse fly likes to tsetse with only tsetse flies.
Or teaching Chinese prostitutes how to drink responsibly.
Yeah.
We don't need museums for neon signs.
No, we don't need to teach foreign countries that they need to clean their genitals after sex. Okay, we literally are spending money for that kind of stuff. It's absolutely insane. And until the American people understand economics, and money is money, and how we spend it is why we're in the situation we're in. And we cannot continue to do liabilities without having the ability to pay for them.
Right.
Period. You can't do pensions. And why have pensions gone away? They've gone away because they've realized that they're not sustainable. And so now they've come up with 401ks. Let me tell you, 401ks to me are getting to the point they're probably one of the most dangerous things that you can have, because you can't get to your money. The government has forced you to put it into a bank account, has not allowed you to access it without penalty, and you have to be over a certain age before you can legally get it out. Where is that money? Think about that.
Yeah.
Where is that money? But they forced the program onto you. Okay, since you don't have pensions. Is there other ways people can save? And 401ks are gambling. It's like putting it into a gambling pot, and you're praying that at the very end, when you can finally get it, is that it's accumulated more money through the gambling pot.
And I believe that some progressive economists have recommended that the federal government confiscate the 401ks.
Absolutely. Yeah, there is some, my understanding is there's some committees or possible future laws about confiscating what's in your 401k, or insisting that your 401ks are invested in government-related assets, and they will guarantee you 3%. Thank you, government. I got my first threatening Obama call this weekend, is what I call it. Calling me and telling me that if I don't have insurance, that the government is going to penalize me. And I'm thinking, people are working for these companies, okay, and they don't understand that they are going to lose their freedom too. And therefore, if we did little things, like refused to work for a company like that, that is literally extorting the American people, and if we refuse to put money into 401ks, and if we refuse to do some other minor things, we could stop. We could stop. They wanted to change the laws for campaign funds. How do you change it? People. Quit giving these guys money.
Yeah. They're not worth it.
If you want to, let's see if they're serious about what they want to do and helping the country. quit giving them money, and we can probably whittle down 20 candidates down to several, and then maybe we spend our money to get the best man in the position, for our country.
But not unless he can pass tests that his constituents pass to test his knowledge on the Constitution.
I think his whole staff needs to be given the test.
Yes. Yes.
Because it's not these senators that are writing these bills.
The staff members?
The staff members are. And
Yeah.
they have overstepped their bounds. And Obamacare was written before he took office in 2008 because it was ready to be launched.
Yeah.
So it was there. We got to try to stay one step ahead of these guys and predict what they're doing next. What do you think?
You're right.
Well, I'm excited about you being here with us this evening. Tell our audience or our camera how people get a hold of you, and tell them a little bit about your going out and speaking, and tell them also about that you write and where you publish some of your information.
Okay. You can find my website at publiushuldah.com. I have over 60 articles at that website which I've written about various aspects of the Constitution, and I have also been published in a number of online newspapers. If you Google my name, Publius Huldah, you'll find these various online papers where I'm published.
Spell that for me.
Publius, and then Huldah, Huldah. I'll tell you how I got the name. When the Federalist Papers were written in 1788, 1787, 1788, they were written by Alexander Hamilton, James Madison, and John Jay in order to explain the proposed Constitution to the people and induce them to ratify it. So these three authors wrote under the pen name Publius. And then Huldah is the prophet at 2 Kings 22. The law had been lost for a very long time, and when they were making renovations in the temple under the reign of King Josiah, they found the book of the law. This was God's law, and they took it to King Hosea, and he said, "Take it to Huldah and see what she says about it." So they took it to Huldah, and she said, "This is the word of God." And so in our country, our Constitution, our law has been lost for 100 years. And I, like Huldah, am trying to restore it and identify it and explain it to the American people so that we can recover our glorious heritage. At my website, I have an Ask Questions page, and if you have a question about the federal Constitution, you can just ask it and I will answer.
Thank you, PH. Let me ask you one more question. What do you think about the Tea Party movement?
I have been disappointed in the Tea Party movement for the reason that I think the primary obligation of citizens is to learn the Constitution and learn our Declaration. I have not seen any willingness on the part of Tea Party groups as a whole to learn these documents.
Do you think they've gotten too far off of their original concept, or trying to smaller government, less spending, less taxes?
I think they wanted to fix our country without having to make any real effort. It feels good and it's fun to go to rallies, but if you don't have the knowledge that you can vet candidates for office. If you don't know the Constitution, then you can't tell if candidates know the Constitution. That's why Tea Party people have continued to support candidates for office who know nothing about the Constitution. So, education. The American people have got to learn these documents. That should be the main function of the Tea Parties. It should be to teach themselves and their members these documents.
Who or what organization is the best that the Tea Party can contact to do that?
I don't know of any Well, wait a moment. Michael Perutka, and I cannot spell his name, he is from Maryland, a lawyer from Maryland, and I cannot think of the name of his organization, but Michael Perutka does have a Constitution course that people can order from him. I'm sorry I don't have the spelling of his name, but I think he ran for president on the Constitution Party platform for the Constitution Party several years ago. I know he's got course materials, but basically, and I cannot stress this enough, the Constitution is so simple that you really don't need to take courses. All you really need to do is get out the Constitution with one color highlighter, highlight all the powers delegated to Congress. With another color, highlight all the powers delegated to the President. With a third color, highlight all the powers delegated to the federal courts. With another color, highlight all the references to God in both documents. Learn it. And you will know. Then you'll be able to vet candidates. Make charts. Make a chart of Article 1 that discusses and sets up the legislative branch. Make a chart of it. And then you will fully understand the legislative branch. Do the same thing for Article 2, which creates the executive branch. Article 3 creates the judicial branch. Article 4 discusses some miscellaneous powers. Article 5 deals with amendments, and Article 6 contains the Supremacy Clause and the Oath of Office.
Let me ask you, out of all 535 members of Congress, which one or several do you think follow the Constitution?
None.
None.
I don't think anybody, no one up there to my knowledge has demonstrated even a primitive understanding of the Constitution.
So how do we find people to run for office? And then